Happy New Year to you and you and you. Happy New Year from Olive Gachara and welcome to the Personal Branding Podcast. In this episode, we are talking about new beginnings, of course, being the first day of 2024. And it is my hope that as you listen through, you shall plan and intend to have a very different and very interesting story this year. With the new year comes new excitement, with the thought of new possibilities. And it is my intention as we walk through this episode to help you create an intentional plan that can ensure that this year is the best year you have had yet. A lot of us like to create New Year's resolutions, and I'm sure you have created 1 or 5, and you've even been intentional about your resolutions and written them down somewhere or in an app somewhere. There's even New Year resolution apps. Did you know that? And it can start with anything from losing weight, going to the gym more, spending more time with the children, drinking less, all those other bad habits. List them. And I'm sure they're all there, that you're going to stop doing all these terrible, terrible bad things, right? And how long do those resolutions last? 3 months? 2 months? Maybe by the end of January, you're sort of falling back to your old habits. Now, what I'd like us to do together in this episode is create a plan as opposed to a resolution, because what's better than a resolution? A plan. And what's better than a plan? A strategic plan. And just the way you will take time to create a strategic plan for your business, and I say this over and over again, you should be able to take the time to create a strategic plan for you as an individual. And this time, we're not just talking about strategic plans of what you want to be able to achieve, but this is a strategic plan for your personal brand in 2024. You shall come out of this, if you do it intentionally and if you walk with me, with very specific things that you can be able to do or that you should be able to do within the next 12 months that will get you from where you are today to where you'd like to be in 12 months' time. Before we get into the 6 elements of strategic planning, I would like us to be very intentional about time, because time is the most important thing. A lot of us have 5-year plans, 10-year plans, long-term goals, short-term goals. Short-term is like a year or 2. Now, keep all of that, park it. In fact, don't even look at what your 5-year plan was, the one that you set up 2 years ago. Ignore all of those previous plans that you've done. And what I'd like you to do is sit down and think about what you want your ultimate plan to be, your ultimate goal, your ultimate achievement for this year 2024 to be. And what we shall do as we're getting into the strategic planning process is to think only about 2024. So we shall have your 12-month plan, break it down into 9 months, into 6 months, into 3 months, and then into 1 month. And if you want to, you can even get into the next 2 weeks. Starting with the most important thing to have right at the top is your vision or your goal for yourself this year. What's the one thing you want to achieve in 2024 from a personal branding perspective? For example, I would say that my personal goal is to be the most notable personal image and brand consultant in Africa by the end of 2024. Does it sound like madness? Probably does, but I think it's attainable. Consider my personal brand profile, right? What's your personal goal? What do you want to achieve at a personal level within the next 12 months? Write that down. You then have your mission or your purpose. We've talked about purpose at length because I really believe that purpose is everything starts from purpose, right? And you could have many different things that you want to be able to achieve, but what is your main purpose? What's the one thing that you want to achieve this year that you're going to go complete tunnel vision on to ensure that you achieve it regardless of what happens? I remember last year was an election year in Kenya, and one of my personal brand visions was to work with female politicians, right? And so we did quite a lot of work in the political branding space throughout the whole year, because that was my mission, and we found very many roadblocks, but we were very tunnel visioned on this is the thing that I intend to achieve this year, regardless of everything else. So what's that one thing that speaks to your purpose? For me, it was really to help empower female politicians to become the best versions of themselves so they can be able to achieve or attain elective office through the ballot, not just through nominations. That was my purpose, and everything that I did through that year was to be able to achieve that one goal. So let's be intentional. Write down what your purpose for 2024 will be. So once you have your ultimate goal, what you want to achieve from a personal branding perspective through this year, and you have your purpose, this is the mission, this is my mission for 2024, this is my why for 2024, what are the things that you then need to do to be able to attain them? This is where you now become smart about your goals, right? And we all know what SMART goals are, right? They're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're relevant, and they're time bound. So write down the things that you need to be able to achieve within 12 months. No, actually work backwards. Write down the things that you need to achieve within the next month, this month of January, when you have nice clarity. And in fact, do as much as you can do in January, because in January you have fire in your blood. You're so fueled. You're like, this year is going to be the year. So before that fire gets extinguished around Valentine's Day there, because maybe someone didn't buy you flowers, I don't know. Make sure you do as much, pack as much in January as you can. Write down what you need to do by March, what you need to do. If personally, I prefer to write it down monthly, but you can have it then quarterly thereafter. And once you have it quarterly, you can then circle back and review each quarter and break down that quarter into what you will do within each month of that quarter. I hope that makes sense. What you will then end up with is a very detailed strategic plan about what you intend to do or what you should do over the next couple of months through to the end of the year, so you can be able to achieve your goals. As you're breaking down your objectives for 2024, you need to ensure that the approach is something that is attainable and the things that you can actually be able to do. And remember, as we're talking about the personal branding process, it's not just about what your career goals are. This year could be the year that you've decided that you want to have children, right? And your mission and your vision for 2024 is to be the best, most present parent that you can be. So again, you still break down, what does that look like? This means that I need to be involved more in school activities. This means that I need to spend more time with my children. This means that we need to go for more camps. We need to plan in more trips. We need this, and that. And once you have your entire plan, you can then budget it and see, in order to be able to achieve this, what tactics do I need to have in place so that I don't fall short? Whatever your goals are, always ensure that they are SMART goals, in that they are specific, they are measurable, they are attainable, they are relevant, and they are time bound. Without this planning, what will then happen is that you'll have all these great things about the things that you want to do by the end of 2024, and then you're going to blink like this and it's going to be October, and you'll be wondering, why am I stuck in a rut? So whether you are in the corporate world and you decide, today's the year I'm stepping out, today's the year I'm starting my own business, today's the year I'm starting my consultancy, what are the things that you need to start doing? Hopefully you've already done some pre-work and now you're ready to step out. If you haven't done any pre-work, then maybe you can take a bit of stock and look back and say, well, maybe I'm not as ready as I thought I was, and I'm going to use this year to do pre-work so that I can actually step out next year. Now, planning is extremely important. It is said that if you plan to fail, you fail to plan. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, we plan for everything else in our lives except our own lives. As we are planning our 12-month outlook for 2024, it's important that you ensure that you cover every aspect of your life. I like to use the three-legged stool as an analogy when you're talking about personal branding, which is of course your personal life, your professional life, and your spiritual life. But for the purpose of this conversation, we shall touch on the 7 pillars of life. So what I personally like to do is I get a book, because I prefer to write than to type. I'm still old school like that. There's something about writing. Anyway, 7 pages, and on each page I write down one of the 7 pillars and I unpack what my goals are for the year for that specific pillar. So if it's your physical body, pillar number 1, what do you want to achieve physically? What level of fitness do you want to have? Do you need to go on a diet? Do you not? Maybe you're too skinny and you need to gain weight. What's that thing that you need to do to be able to feel like you're at your best? Maybe physically you look fine, but you're unfit. In fact, lean people tend to be more unfit than we think. Did you know that skinny people can get cholesterol, can get high cholesterol? Fun fact, right? So just because people look small doesn't mean that they're healthy. So your physical body, what do you need to do to be able to feel like you're at your most optimum? Then we have your emotional and your mental well-being. What are those things that you need to scratch out of your life that were disturbing you in 2023 to give you peace of mind in 2024? Because the most important thing is peace of mind. And a lot of people don't pay attention to mental health. They only start paying attention to mental health when it becomes detrimental. Do you see a therapist? Perhaps do you maybe need to add seeing a therapist into your weekly routine, not because there's something significantly wrong with you, but because in cases of mental health, prevention is better than cure. We then have your relationships. What relationships do you need to build on? Is it your intimate relationship with your partner, your relationship with your children, your relationship with your parents, your relationship with that boss that just irritates you, but you realize that they're not going anywhere, they will always be there. So this year, I'm fixing that relationship. What does that look like? What do you need to start doing to fix that relationship? Again, maybe you're at that place where everything is fine. Everywhere you look, everything is just hunky-dory and good for you, right? What can you do to ensure that that status quo remains? After relationships comes time. How do you spend your time? Are you an alcoholic like Olive? Do you feel like you have a work-life imbalance? Or have you watched my podcast about work-life integration and you've realized, you know what, I actually need to change how I do things and how I manage my time so that I can feel a bit more fulfillment from what I do with both my personal and my profession and my work time? So how do you spend your time? What do you need to change? Do you maybe watch too much Netflix? Are you that statistic that's on social media 3 hours a day? Where do you feel like you're wasting time and you can add something a bit more productive within that hour? Are you sleeping too much? Are you sleeping too little? In fact, one of my things for this year is that I need to sleep more, because this thing of sleeping 5 hours a day is not sustainable. I don't intend to age very soon, so sleeping more is one of my big things on time. Ensuring that I get 8 hours. I have no idea how I'm going to do that, but it's on a mission and it's time bound. I'm like, at least by March, I need to have found a routine that gets me to a consistent 8 hours. Then you have your career, of course, because that is why most of you are listening to this podcast in the first place. What do you want to achieve career-wise? Do you want to get that promotion this year? Is this that year? Is this your year? Do you want to break free and start your own business? Actually, by then, starting your own business is not breaking free, fun fact, but anyway. Or is this the year when you actually get into employment? Is this the year when you change jobs? What is that drastic move you want to be able to make within your career? Or are you at a good place and what you want to do is ensure that you just hit your targets, make more sales and make more money, because that then takes us to finances. Where are there gaps in your finances? The last couple of years after COVID and elections, it has been a very difficult time for very many Kenyans and very many people around the world as we're going through a global recession. So everyone has a gap somewhere, I think. Maybe not, maybe you're the lucky one. So if you have a gap somewhere in your finances, how can you fill that gap? Does it mean that you need to tighten your belt a little bit, or does it mean that you need to work harder or find other supplementary areas of income? What's that thing that you need to be able to do to become more financially comfortable, financially independent within the next 12 months? Write it down. Then lastly, we have your spirituality and your goodwill. Brand goodwill is one of the most important elements of a personal brand, which we've not really touched on a lot in this series, unfortunately. But I'm sure we shall get to a point where we shall touch on it or unpack it much more in one of the upcoming seasons. Brand goodwill is where you hold someone else's hand as you're going up the career or societal ladder, so to speak. What are you doing to give back to your community? What are you doing to give back to your environment? What are you doing to support the people around you? Spiritually, what do you need to do to make yourself feel more fulfilled spiritually? Have you been going to church? Have you been going to the mosque? Do you need to maybe take your fasting more seriously this year? What's that thing that you need to do to make yourself feel more spiritually grounded? And if you don't think you need spiritual grounding, surprise, surprise, you do. Everybody needs one form or the other of spiritual grounding. Maybe you want to become a Zen master and spend more time meditating. I personally love to meditate. Are you able to get in your 10 minutes of meditation every day? Is that sufficient? Do you maybe need to meditate for an hour every day? Do you have the time to be able to do that? It takes us back to time. So amongst those 7 aspects of your life, ensure that you unpack on each and every one of them to ensure that by the time you're done, you've worked on every single element that will help you become a more wholesome person as you're working towards your ultimate goal to develop that personal brand that you want within 2024. Remember, you are the writer, the narrator, the star, and the producer of the life that is yours. So what is your 2024 story going to look like? It is my hope that you make yours a good one. And the only way to ensure you make it a good one is by making it an intentional one. Thank you for tuning in to the Personal Branding Podcast. I hope that you have learned a lot through this series. This does mark the end of season 1. We shall be coming to you with season 2 very, very soon. So do let me know what you'd like season 2 to look like. We shall definitely take your thoughts into consideration. And until then, feel free to replay the previous episodes as you're developing your 2024 brand strategy. And I do wish you all the best. Happy New Year.